Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to Around the Grid, also right now known as basically the Pain Train, where we have wins and crashes hand in hand, and things are kind of exciting in a painful way. But we have Sargent, we have Schumacher, probably again through the most crash-prone drivers on the grid. We are about to go into Spain, and we're a little bit behind Red Bull here, but I think we're going to potentially end up in a similar situation to last season, where we might take the drivers, but not the constructors. And honestly, I think I would be okay with that. In terms of car performance here, just a quick summary. We are the slowest car on track with the worst DRS effectiveness, basically. But we are very, very good at going around corners in a speedy manner. And as you can see here, Schumacher's car is lacking a couple upgrades because he destroyed them. But we're going into Spain here, which is a high deck track in 11 days. And that should keep things a little bit more spicy. Now, I am focusing purely on developing the car this season. We're not going to really leave Alpine with anything beneficial research-wise. We're probably going to do C8 of the chassis, which means I'm going to focus on doing 3 more projects here. Once the side pods and the suspension S5 and SP5 are done, we're going to be putting them on the car. And the same can kind of be said here for the rear wing. So we're getting a lot of upgrades, hopefully, in the near future, which is going to maybe close the gap with Red Bull a little bit. But for now, we're going to have to try and survive Spain. And also here, I should have a quick look. We are manufacturing new components. So Schumacher's car should be upgraded, hopefully, by the time we actually enter Spain proper. But let's see what we can do here. Spain is coming up. Hopefully both cars will get to the finish line. And I might have cursed myself by saying that, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, we've actually gotten a good event here, this Design Center improvement. However, the condition of our Design Center is so horrible that, as you can see, the effectiveness is already 60%. This basically just improves effectiveness by 50% of your current effectiveness. So we go up to 90, and it's going to lose us an engineer. We're going to lose a project capacity. I'm kind of tempted to just improve the budget for this, just to see if this actually happens. But in theory, unless your condition is actually close to max here, or you don't have any debuffs, you're not actually getting those extra 2 capacity slots. So we're just going to go ahead and deny the budget for this. It would be kind of hilarious just to test that out, because it sounds pretty weird. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one. Now, the rear wing here is not a significant upgrade by any means of the imagination. The main thing here is going to be the extra DRS effectiveness. That is going to put us a little bit further up the order, and that is what we're going to be going for. It's just a slight amount. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and rush 2 of these, or honestly, I can make them normally and just put it on before we go into qualifying. That'll do the job as well. Let's get those started. And in terms of the other pieces here, again, it's basically going to be after Barcelona here that we can start working on the sidepod and suspension. Now, the rear wing here, I'm just going to double check if another addition would be a bigger upgrade, and it does kind of look like that. So we do need to make another one. This one is a lot better. It would actually put us in the driver's seat of DRS effectiveness, which I don't know if I believe, but it would be huge. So let's go ahead and get this one made. We're going to put 6 engineers on it. I don't think we need to rush it, but because I don't think we're getting it really before the summer break. We can get it before Budapest. Even if I rush this one, I would have to emergency manufacture to get them before Silverstone. So let's just do it normally. 27 days. We'll have plenty of time to get it done before Hungary. Let's go ahead and get that sorted like that. So upgrades are coming. Hopefully they'll be good upgrades. Can't really make any guarantees, but nothing else is going to be upgraded on the car right now. So let's just jump into the Spanish GP and see if our tires get destroyed in the process. The weekend gets off to a great start here in classical fashion. Schumacher started off with a little bit of a spin, but luckily no crashes. It does somewhat destroy his tires, and it might have some minor implications for the race itself, but he did that on his warm-up lap, although Sainz did kind of destroy him here. 8 seconds off the 8 seconds off the time here. That's not a great first run, but at least we kind of screwed over Sainz in return. So yeah, I think we're better equipped to handle this. Now, we do actually have an extra set of tires there. I would like to have 3 fresh sets for the race if possible. For Schumacher, that's kind of impossible because he has destroyed those, and we do need to kind of set a slightly better time if we want to get through to the next session. But I think we'll be fine here. Let's see what Schumacher can do on a basically fresh track. He's set in green sectors, which honestly would be impressive if he didn't. 3/10 off, that I think should be good enough for him getting into Q3. So let's see where we stack up for the race itself. With the quali completed here, we end up first row next to Yamamoto with the exact same time as Gasly here. We set it first, however, and that's why we're ahead. Schumacher down in 9th here in a quali that was actually pretty consistent. Let's just put it like that. Let's say Schumacher is a couple of tenths too slow here, really, to contend with anyone. He's basically 2 tenths off front row here. So I can't be too upset with him, considering, well, how things have gone. But it is a little bit problematic, to say the least. And terms of strategy around here, the AI is, or rather the game, is telling us that we should probably consider a hard, medium, soft strategy. And we are going to immediately try and make a different one. And we might actually end up doing something a tiny bit cheeky. How would this square up? About 9 seconds faster if we don't have temperature issues. And that is a big if. So I don't know how I feel about that one. Now for Schumacher here, we don't actually have any extra tires, which is of course an issue. And as you can see, adding a full attack medium and a, well, attack hard in there doesn't really benefit us in any way, shape or form. So we're not going to do that. But even a hard stint here is not necessarily going to be helpful. Keeping the medium on light is probably going to be our best bet. It's also going to make us a lot safer in the event that we do have an incident. The only problem with this strategy would be tire temperature, as you might expect, but I don't think we have any better options here. Barcelona just eats your tires so aggressively that you don't really have any options. You can do this at standard. It's about, again, 10 seconds slower. So if we do see temperature issues, we might switch to basically running a medium and then a hard. But we're going to give this a go. Hopefully it will be fine. And usually it is. But again, temperature can play a part here. Generally, if you are running 1 degree below, you're fine. But once you start getting 2, 3, 4, that's kind of when you can start losing a lot of time really, really quick. So keep that in mind. Usually it is okay. But we'll have to see how things go here. We qualified 2nd and 9th. We'll have to see if Schumacher can recover his position, so to speak. Get a little bit further up the order. But we are ready here, and I see a lot of red tires. I see 1 hard, 2 mediums. Some mediums towards the back, which does make sense. As Schumacher has actually a very, very good start and jumps 3 cars. I believe if he can get Albon here too. Basically off the line. Sargent gets pushed down to 3rd, but reclaims his position immediately. Schumacher does lose out to Albon again, but honestly, that's quite an impressive start there from Mick. We'll take that. Again, this is basically just management at this point. There isn't really much else for me to do. Barcelona is kind of boring in that sense. You kind of have to manage your tires more than you have to manage your opponents. And Yamamoto here is just flying. There's just no way around it. She is going to be flying for quite a while. And hopefully we can close down to her in the future. But for this race, I think she's going to be unbeatable. Just because of tire preservation. But let's wait and see. First pit stop is still quite a while away. And as I mentioned here, beautiful stuff from Schumacher. I'm okay with running in 3rd, honestly. If they want to burn their tires, that works for us. Let's see how things look a little bit later in this race. As we near the, well, almost the quarter mark, we're still a couple laps off. We can see that we are 4 seconds or so behind Yamamoto. Schumacher has made up to 5th. He's just 7 seconds off the lead here, so not really a bad position. And tire-wise, Sainz has destroyed his tires, but Tsunoda has destroyed his. He's been falling backwards after he also got a little bit of damage. But generally here, I say again, we're still in a very, very good position. Yamamoto is going to be hard to beat. That's just how things are. But Schumacher is kind of getting the points here. The pit window has begun. But we'll have to see here if those who pit early are going to get in a little bit of trouble. I think they might. Degradation-wise, it is as expected, so we're not really saving any tire. Temperature-wise, we're also fine. But yeah, we'll have to see if we can get both cars on the podium. I think it's going to be a little bit difficult. But I don't think there's going to be anything interesting happening here unless we have some pit issues. It seems like we are going to be very, very much fine here. At the halfway point of the race here, things are still looking really, really good. We've been able to keep temperature in these mediums while we've been kind of running light. We're pretty far behind Yamamoto, but that's also because, well, she's used a lot more time than we have. Same with Sainz Gasly here. Sargent isn't really that far off here as the impression that we're given. And with Schumacher just 5 seconds further down the road, I don't think we're in a really bad situation here at all. Tsunoda is also potentially going to end up DNFing here as he's picked up even more damage to his component. But I think he'll be fine. Verstappen having some damage here is also good for us because, again, if he ends up DNFing, that would be huge. But right now he is with Sargent. We might want to slow him down a little bit to get away. But for the time being, there isn't really much to do. He shouldn't be pitting rather soon. But honestly, I do think on this next lap here, we're going to try and create a gap. I don't really want to act as a tow for Verstappen on all the tires if I can avoid it. So let's see if we can give him the slip. Verstappen's failure has escalated. But it seems like it's either engine or ERS as... Sorry, it's either gearbox or ERS as there's no smoke. Let's just take a quick look here. It is, in fact, his engine, actually. Not smoking, but it has developed now a major fault. And that could be pretty bad here for him in the race here. We have also closed down the gap here to 8 seconds. We're currently fighting Gasly. But, again, tire advantage is going to be huge. Sainz is going to be pitting soon. Gas is going to be pitting soon. We're kind of, again, just acting as a little bit of a tow for Gasly. But don't really have the energy to give him the slip here. And honestly, while it does suck, I don't see any way to get rid of him short term. And that is pretty bad, all things considered. But he should be pitting very soon. And he pits just then. But yeah, Schumacher has caught up to Verstappen here, and I'm kind of tempted to take a look. There's actually a back marker getting in the way here of the fight, if you will. Albon picks up a mechanical fault too, and with Tsunoda's fault as well, we could very well end up in a situation here where we get a red flag, which is 25 laps to go. Tsunoda's fault has evolved here to a Terminal 1, and he is now heading into the pits to retire, so he will not be causing any sort of problem. We're also getting very, very close here to our final pit stop, so we're going to go ahead and go attack for a couple of laps. Yamamoto has already pitted. She went for the hard tire. There's some medium runners, but with a soft tire here towards the end, I think we can overcome that kind of debuff. I would like to use up these mediums completely, just so we have a little bit more to go on towards the end of this race. But in terms of where we're going to come out when we pit, we should beat Bottas out, at least for Sargent. For Schumacher, while it would be preferable to beat Bottas out, I don't really see that happening unless we kind of pit right now, which honestly we might do. Schumacher is currently just across the finish line. So we're going to go ahead and pit him on this lap, and we're probably going to go ahead and pit Sargent on the following. And that should be acceptable, though let's just face it, we're going to go ahead and pit him on this lap. And that should be our final set of pit stops sorted. Again, for Sargent here, he needs to beat Gasly and Sainz, which again I think is doable. For Schumacher, it's going to be a little bit more challenging, and we're going to need some clean stops here to, well, at least the first stop needs to be clean. Which it is, but why are you not leaving? What was that, Sargent? Was that the game just messing with me? Because that's kind of what it feels like. So Schumacher, unfortunately, as I mentioned, did not beat neither Verstappen nor Bottas out. But considering that we're trying to get these, well, warm up these tires gently, being behind Bottas isn't a bad thing. But Schumacher thought so and just immediately overtook him. But yeah, so far, looking very, very good. We do need to close down those 13 seconds of Gasly and Sainz. And again, the difference here is quite excessive in terms of tire. But I think we'll be able to pull that off, hopefully. With 5 laps to go now, Sargent has actually closed down the gap to Gasly and is just straight up driving past. Nothing to really send her, well, nothing really to talk about there. Sainz is still a couple of seconds up the road, but definitely the tire advantage here with the soft versus a used medium is quite huge. I don't know if Schumacher is going to be able to get Gasly too before the end of this. He is running over a second a lap quicker right now, so in theory he should. But as the AI starts pushing towards the end, it could become a little bit more difficult. For Sargent here, the goal is only to beat Sainz to get second. Yamamoto is just, again, a bit of a monster that we will probably have to deal with later in the season. But we are running quite a lot faster than anyone around us. 1.5 seconds on both Sainz and Yamamoto last lap. And for Schumacher, he actually gained almost 3 seconds on Gasly, who probably got bullied a little bit. But in this case, I find it acceptable, which sounds terrible. Not gonna lie. I kind of want to just get Sargent past Sainz here immediately, and if we can, use energy to create a gap. There is a back mark here that could potentially cause some problems with that strategy, and they kind of do. But Sargent here has created a 2-second gap. I don't see Sainz closing that gap back down. And honestly here, if we had a few more laps to go on, catching Yamamoto might have been viable as well, although she is extending the gap right now. 2 seconds a lap, it is theoretically still viable. The energy is going to be a bit of a problem. Going full attack could solve that issue. Let's see what we can do here. This track eats tires with 3 laps, 20-ish%. Should be acceptable, I would think, as Schumacher here might actually get both Gasly and Sainz if we play our cards right. That's Schumacher up to 4th, and we're going to use about 50% of our energy here just to close down that 3-second gap. Because if we pull that off, that would be huge. And honestly here, we might as well just deploy for Sargent 2, see how close we can get. But for Schumi, he is going to potentially get 2 DRS zones here to make something happen. There is a back marker between our cars right now, which is problematic. But it also means we should have DRS down this straight, even though we aren't really close enough. And then hopefully on that in that second DRS zone, we'll be able to make the pass. Unless, you know, Schumacher just makes a pass on the outside here, which would be its own brand of insanity, I'm not gonna lie. Let's go ahead and start deploying. We have energy enough that it should be a issue. Put Sargent on neutral, and I'm also gonna push fuel down here. It's not enough though. Let's make sure that we at least get over the line.
Checkered flag.
Schumi tried, but unfortunately just not enough. But we'll take that. 2nd and 4th. Red Bulls are 3rd and 6th. Verstappen did survive even with the damage to his engine. Yamamoto wins. We're just 5 seconds off. It's not terrible. So all things considered, I think that was a decent enough race for us. And next up we're going to have Austria, in which we should have the sign pod upgrade, which should make life a little bit easier. But yeah. 2nd and 4th, that's a good result for Schumacher. Should help his mentality a little bit. Shame that I couldn't get Sainz there. It's a little bit unfortunate. But Sargent does close up to the leader again. Just 3 points, but he's now just 3 points off, so that's fine. And in terms of constructors here, 7 points gained for us. We do need to get a bigger gains in future, so Yamamoto here could still cause us pain. We can still lose the drivers. We are not looking great for constructors. We need some new parts and some stability in order to take either of these titles, or I might be stuck here for another year. Let's see what we can do going into Austria. So I wish I was joking, but Schumacher has once again spun. Problem is just that this time he damaged his underfloor in the process, and well, got himself out in Q2 of the sprint. This is Austria though, which is pretty top speed heavy, so I can't blame him for getting knocked out. I can blame him for the damage, however. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to blame him for the damage. We'll have to see if we actually do have an extra underfloor here, or if we're doing a pit lane start. Because I'm not sure we do. Oh, thank the heavens, we do. So, he's fine. Just barely. But hopefully we don't destroy any more underfloors. And we do also need to change out the engine and the gearbox very soon. But I think that will probably be next race weekend, more so than anything else. For now, though, we're going to get Sergeant here through the final quali. And hopefully we'll be able to at least snatch some points off Red Bull here during the sprint. Sprint isn't super valuable. The race is going to be more important. But I can at least hope. The sprint went pretty well. Although we qualified 6th, Sergeant is currently in the lead. And honestly, this is kind of a good spot to try and create a little bit of a gap. We have Albon, we have Yamamoto, and we can only hope here that we can maybe create the gap that we need. We do have the energy here. We also have a couple laps to recharge if needed. I think it's going to be very close. Probably going to need a little bit more here. Albon is going to get DRS. But I don't think he's going to get the second DRS. And with that, Sergeant should kind of be already running away here, which is what we love to see. Yamamoto is going to potentially get launched here by Albon, or they could take each other out, which would be bad for us because, let's face it, we don't want the Red Bulls winning. But with just 3 laps remaining here, I don't know if Schumacher can catch a Red Bull. Maybe. We do have energy that is kind of usable right now. And catching a Red Bull with that should be viable. Catching and overtaking, actually. We might actually catch another Red Bull and the two other vehicles, as I think we've had Ferrari on Ferrari violence. At this rate, I might be playing Ferrari next season.
With not much room to move. And not just one car involved in that.
Charles.
Now they're confident.
That kills people, Charles. But yeah, Charles took out Hamilton, which is unfortunate. Show, I believe, only had engine damage, or rather his engine gave up, I guess is the best way to put it. It happens, can't really do anything about it. Schumacher there with a beautiful overtake on Verstappen. But we'll have to see if we can actually keep up with the Williams cars here, because if we can do that, let's face it, I don't imagine that we're going to get an overtake done, but we can definitely crash into the back, which is kind of what that looked like. Yeah, I don't see us getting a move head done on the Williams. Tsunoda is once again suffering with mechanical failures. But honestly, Sargent winning, Yamamoto second, and if Schumacher can hold on to 4th here, that would be a
Good job.
huge improvement, honestly. And we will take that. Come on, yeah.
Alright, good job, guys.
That's not a bad start to the race weekend. Like, honestly, if Schumacher wants to get his shenanigans over with in quali, I'm all for it. Because getting those shenanigans done with in quali means that he's not going to ruin my day by crashing in the race. 5 places up, 8 places up. Really, really nice to see. Now, Schumacher is also running a worse car at the moment than Sargent. Because up until today, we didn't have that second sidepod made. And as you can see, it's quite important in terms of top speed. Now, Schumacher's probably driving the slowest car on the grid, so it's gonna not really bump him that far up. But 0.8 kph, barely any losses anywhere else, is an upgrade that I would be very, very happy getting. So we have gotten the SB5. We also do have this one done now. We actually got it done now. It wasn't ready before the race weekend. And of course, that is going to go on Sargent's car. Now, this upgrade isn't super impressive. Basically, what we're going to overtake it is just 1 place. But again, top speed there. 4 places just with the suspension. So once we get this on both cars, things are going to be looking good. I'll have to see it too. If I want to switch out the engine, the ERS gearbox next race weekend, I'm kind of tempted to do that then. Have all these parts go through full quality sessioning before we start switching. And then maybe start using towards the end of the year, or buy new ones depending on our situation. That's kind of how I like to do things. Basically, use the parts until they are starting to hit the yellow zone, degrade a little bit more. And if we need to, we can then make a decision at the end of the year if we buy extra engines, ERS, gearboxes because we need it to be competitive, or if we can afford to lose some points then. So that is kind of the idea there. But we are definitely going to be using these parts for this race. And again, we're just going to burn down these because they're all kind of hitting that yellow zone limit. Both the ERS, gearbox, engine, all of them are there. The only exception is Schumacher's ERS, which, again, we replaced when it crashed. But that isn't, again, a huge deal. So, for Silverstone, new engines for both cars, new gearbox for both cars, and just an ERS for Sargent is what I'm thinking. We'll also have a couple of new components, so we'll take a look at how the car looks going into Silverstone, and hopefully will no longer be the slowest car in terms of top speed come then. But let's see how quality goes. I have hopes here that we can maybe not go front row, but maybe third. Hopefully. Second row maybe. But let's see where we end up here. Qualifying here went very well with third and sixth. And again, Schumacher is driving a car that is slightly worse than Sargent's, so he is forgiven for all his sins at this point. But since I'm getting very, very happy, I can see this going very, very badly. But I put him on a bit of an interesting strategy here and medium into 2 hards, which is uncommon for me. It's not very often that I use a strategy that doesn't include at least 1 soft. But this is actually the fastest thing that I could come up with for Schumacher. So, Austria, that gets pretty high. You can do something really fun with a 1-stopper. But basically, yeah, medium into 2 hards works out really, really well. And same it can be said for Sargent. Now, he's going to have a 4-second lower race time, but that is because he has 5% more tire preservation than Schumacher. He's also got better stats. So basically, it comes down to that. Schumacher with this same strategy would be actually a little bit slower than Sargent. He doesn't have 2 hards, so we can't compare. But this should be plenty, I believe, in the current current scenario. But yeah, second and third row. Better than anticipated. Now, we're going to go ahead and stick to high overtake aggression because I love the fun of that. Schumacher is unfortunately ending up in a little bit of trouble here with the Haas. It's not a big deal, honestly. We're getting that place back anyways. But yeah, in terms of tire usage here, we have Gasly with the hards, which could become a bit of a problem. But most cars are on mediums or hards down the road here. Sargent could end up with a little bit of trouble when it comes to pitting, but I don't think it's gonna affect us too much. Basically, we might pit early enough that we might end up in a bit of traffic, but we'll have to deal with that once we actually get there. But a decent start here. We held on to our positions. Sargent is kind of creating a bit of a gap here with the Yamamoto, which is actually pretty good. I'll take that. And we might also get bit of an overtake here from Schumacher, who's made his way up to 4th already. So things are looking very, very promising. Let's see how things look once we get closer to our first set of pit stops. Now, because everyone else is kind of burning their tires, we already have a lot of pit stops happening, and Gasly and Rick here both started on the hards, but they've burned more of their tires than Sargent has of his, and that is kind of insane in its own right. But seeing that everyone is getting to a point here where they're going to be pitting, we're just going to burn what remains of these soft tires, and then we're going to jump on the hards. Now, Schumacher is a little bit further down the road. There's no way to deny that. It's just how things are. But give him a few, 2-3 more laps, and we're going to also start moving a little bit more aggressive with him. So that should be okay. And honestly here, we do have a little bit of leeway, just a couple of laps worth in terms of the hards. So I think we're just going to put him on attack here. We're going to have him destroy these tires as much as possible. The rest of the crew, so to speak, is pitting. So we should potentially consider getting ourselves in the pits as well. So Sargent here is going to be pitting on this lap. We're going to put him on the hard tire. try and go long. But for Schumacher, we're going to stay out a little bit longer, and that could put us in traffic. But not really much we can do about that. Sargent here, clean stop, comes out in third, stays with Yamamoto hopefully. Gonna use a little bit of energy there to kind of just catch up. We are going to be running aggressive, however, so honestly, I'd like to actually just get the overtake done and create a bit of a gap. But we're going to be on the same tire here, so we'll have to see what we can do for Schumacher. A few more laps there until we pit. By the time we get Schumacher ready here to pit, Sargent has almost caught up, but Sargent on the other hand has distanced himself a little bit from Yamamoto, which is huge. But we'll have to see exactly where that camera changed. I'll have to see exactly where Schumi comes out. I don't know why you've elected to use that camera when I wanted to look at 4X. But yeah, we do come out in traffic here, and that is a bit of a concern. But since we're going to be more aggressive here with our tires anyways, we might as well take the opportunity to get some overtakes done. We have a pretty significant tire advantage all the way here. So that should be good. And again, for Schumi here, we're just going to run hard till the end. He's 16 points off the lead. But honestly, what I want to do is just try to get him on the podium. If he ends up on the podium somehow, I'm going to be happy. So not too much expected here. But that was probably a bit of a waste of energy to just get a singular overtake done. We're going to recharge. We're going to get Verstappen here. And then we're going to keep on moving him forwards. Hopefully. As we are getting increasingly closer to our final pit stop, Sargent has been doing an amazing job at keeping everyone at bay. The only one that has pitted is Tsunoda. He's half a minute behind. And right now we are just going to be pushing these tires to the limit, basically. We should get the job done. Schumacher has done a good job, but he's also been bullied quite significantly at this point. He's been pushed off in basically the gravel zone corner where everyone gets punted if you try and go around on the outside. He's been sent to the gravel zone 3 times this race. He's lost 3 positions times 2 and 2 positions times 1. So he's actually done a good job at recovering, and because of the yo-yo effect going up and down, he's enjoying peak confidence right now as he overtakes Albon. And we're actually going to burn these hards pretty significantly here. And I think he will actually have a pretty decent chance here of potentially fighting for a podium by the end. Now we can see the rest are pitting, which means that we're going to get Sargent in now on this lap. He did have about a 5-second gap to Yamamoto, so that should be good. But yeah, for Schumi here too, he's going to have a hard time catching Yamamoto, Tsunoda. Verstappen goes for a soft tire with 23 laps to go. That's an interesting choice. That's a very interesting choice, not going to lie. For Sargent here, are we getting a clean stop? 2.4, good. That should have him remain in the lead, and you can kind of see just how big this lead is still. 6 seconds, 5 seconds down to Yamamoto, and with a medium versus a hard, we should be okay. Although, to be fair, we could also just slow down and play it safe, run it light. But I don't think it's going to matter too much around here. For Schumi, I think we pit him on this lap. He's going to, again, have a hard time fighting for a podium. But I think he might beat both Red Bulls here. And that is kind of more important, in my opinion. So we're going to get him in. Should be a pretty straightforward and clean stop. Probably going to come out where Albon is, if we're lucky. And we do come out ahead of Albon, ahead of the triplets, so to speak. And if we end up second in the triplet category here, behind Albon but ahead of the other two, which seems to be the case unless we get sent to the gravel realm again, I'm pretty happy with this. This is not a bad place to be right now. We can heat up our tires a little bit easier. And overtaking Albon shouldn't be too much of an issue. And right now, while he still has some pretty decent soft tires, he can also help pull us along. So for Schumacher, 4th place is going to be the goal. Anything else is just going to be an added bonus. For Sargent, we are of course going for the win here, but Yamamoto might make that a little bit tricky. And we might need to slow down a little bit and try and manage tires and play the tire game, because right now she's a lot faster than us. So I'll have to see what we end up doing here. The spice has arrived. Sergeant has picked up a mechanical fault. And the fault in question is to his gearbox. So it didn't really take long. We didn't need to dip far into the yellow zone before we got into trouble. We're still running in the lead here thanks to basically using energy to make sure we didn't get dropped from DRS. But it's still not a great position to be in. We're basically going to have to fight here with a somewhat gimped car. We do have a significant tire advantage because we basically did run light here. But yeah, I don't think we're in necessarily the best position. I kind of need that back marker that we're ahead of to give me DRS on the next straight, hopefully. But Schumacher is doing a great job here. He's 3 seconds off the podium, which means that we might be able to put both cars on the podium here, which would be amazing. Sainz has had an issue that has put him in a bad spot. He's down in 10th. Stroll retires due to damage to his car. Well, not really damage to his car, damage to his components. And we are kind of just trying to defend as much as possible right now. As long as we can stay with Yamamoto, I'm going to be happy. But the gearbox damage here is definitely not helping us. Let's just put it like that. Pushumi here with 4 laps remaining. We might just need to go a little bit deploy. Use a little bit of that energy to catch up to Verstappen and Tsunoda. And that is actually exactly what we're going to do here. So we have 2 kind of exciting battles going on. I do think the Sergeant is going to come out on top simply because tire difference, mainly. And for Shumi here, I don't know if he's going to come out on top. But I think he too is going to, again, just win due to the difference in tire wear more so than anything else. Also, once we can run our engines on balance rather than conserve, that too is going to be a huge help. But yeah, for Shumi now, the goal is just going to be to clear one of these cars ahead, and then the other one should basically be easy pickings. So let's use humanity here. Let's push a little bit. We have a lot of it. There's not a lot of laps remaining. We need to make a move now, and it looks like that is exactly what happened. Up into 4th place, Verstappen next. And he is basically going to get eaten right now, I believe. And I'm just going to go ahead and deploy. And there's 2 reasons for this. Number 1 is that I want to be in the lead as we send Verstappen to the gravel zone. Which kind of nullified my second point. But the second reason why I wanted to push there, we'll just slow things down a little bit. The second reason why I wanted Schumacher to push is because if he created a gap to Verstappen that allowed Tsunoda to overtake, that would help us in the championship. And that's kind of what happened here. Now, I focused a little bit too much on Schumacher, but Sargent should, with his advantages, if you will, be able to beat Yamamoto here. Energy-wise, we're a little bit low. But we are creating a big enough gap here that even with DRS, I think we will be safe. Because we still have some energy to use. Did she just barely get DRS there? Kind of think so. I also used the wrong camera angle. Apologies. But she's so far behind, it shouldn't be an issue here. We should get both cars on the podium in what has been a beautiful, beautiful start to this episode. We are going to do one more race. Most likely, maybe 2. But probably just 1. But yeah, Sargent wins. Beautiful. Yamamoto gets 2nd, which is acceptable. Schumacher comes in 3rd. And the Red Bulls have a very, very bad experience at home. Unfortunately for us though, Tsunoda did not manage to hold on to that 4th place. Verstappen does get that back. Schumacher did run out of fuel, but he crossed the line. So I think we're safe. Sainz ended up 10th, but let's face it, just 1 point between those 2 places, so nothing major. But yeah, both cars on the podium. I can be happy. But yeah, this is kind of what I expect the rest of the season to look like. Sargent and Yamamoto for the most part fighting over drivers, and Schumacher kind of trying to keep the Red Bulls at bay. That makes sense. But right here, we extended the gap by another 7 points, but all we need is 1 DNF for it to be dangerous again. 94 overall in Yamamoto is scary stuff. And in the Constructors here, we closed that gap by 33 points this race weekend. That's real good. That's real good. That's what we love to see. Now, next up we have Silverstone, and there we are going to be switching out some of our powertrain components, which is going to keep us, well, not keep us, which is going to make us even more competitive, which is going to be huge. And we also now should be able to hopefully get another suspension going. We're going to have to rush this one as well. We can put it on basically after quali, if you will. I should probably check what is damaged before I start manufacturing in case I need to, you know, rush something. Looks like we are good. Component-wise, we are kind of running a very, very scuffed ship right now. I'm not gonna lie. We're kind of running in a very... How can I put this in the best way possible? We're kind of in a place where if something fails, it's going to be really bad because there's so little time between each race. But we should be fine getting to Silverstone, and then we have two weeks break before Hungary. So I'm not too worried here. I do want to check though if I believe it didn't. Yeah, the failure was just temporary, but we're still not going to be using those gearboxes. Both drivers are enthusiastic, and with that, I think what I am going to develop, or rather manufacture, is going to be probably a chassis, because it's starting to become damaged. We should still have time to manufacture something else after the race weekend. We're making extra underfloor here. I think we'll be fine. Now, mainly I'm going to be focusing on making side pods, underfloor suspension, and chassis for the rest of the season. I put the CFD into the suspension for this one. Next is probably going to be the side pods. I know I said that earlier, that they are probably going to be a bit of a high priority. I'm sorry, I lied. I kind of want to get that tire preservation up a little bit. But we're going to keep on making different designs and then put them on the car later on. And that should be good enough. But for now, Silverstone, 4 days. Let's see what the British GP has to offer. Schumacher continues his new fresh tradition of spinning in qualifying. However, this time he does it on a fast lap, which is unfortunate considering that A, he won, and 2, he already had a terrible first lap here. So, as you can imagine, not good. So we're going to have to send him out again, and honestly here, I'm just going to call him in, because he's not going to improve anyways. Sargent is currently P1, which is another piece of insanity. The one that I will happily agree to. And yeah, these tires are destroyed. It is Britain, so quality here is a pain, just purely due to the fact that there's so not really any good place to overtake. So if you end up in traffic, that traffic is gonna destroy your lap time anyways, so we're just gonna have to try and gamble here that Hamilton will be a good clearer for us, and not really. 12th place here. Schumacher might be out. We don't really also have time for another run here, unfortunately, so we're just gonna have to pray. We didn't pray hard enough. That's very unfortunate, but I guess that is the cost that I pay for having 2 good races. So, yeah, Schumacher's going to have to do a little bit of a comeback, which I'm okay with. Bottas P1 in Q1 in Aston. This time, let's win, man. But yeah, let's see what we do in quali. It's a shame for Schumacher, but honestly, that is just how the cookie rolls sometimes. I probably could have done one more run if I really wanted to, but let's be honest, I thought he was safe. I was wrong. Now I have to live with the consequences. So for the British Grand Prix here, we qualified 4th with Sargent, which isn't terrible, but it's also ain't great, as Schumacher has a kind of bad start there, but honestly he should be able to make his way up pretty quickly. We are going to be playing the good old 2 softs, 1 medium. And that will hopefully get things kind of sorted here. In terms of our opponents, we are basically one of the only cars on the soft and top 10, Science being the other one. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But generally around here, there isn't really much difference in strategy. So variance is not going to be found. Let's just put it like that. Now for Schumacher, honestly, the goal is just going to get back in the points. That too is going to be a little bit of a struggle. but I think it's a struggle that we can actually succeed in. But for now, it's a good start to the race. We didn't crash in turn 1. Let's see how things look a little bit further in. We've had a bit of an incident here, which involves Verstappen and Tsunoda.
And oh dear.
I have a feeling that Helmut is going to have a bit of a stroke with this one. So, Tsunoda takes out Verstappen.
Idiot.
I guess that is why I didn't get promoted in reality. But yeah, that's a bit unfortunate for them. It's actually really fortunate for us, because that is a couple of free places for Schumi. And also, let's face it, less points for Red Bull, which I'm all for. Also, for once, it's good that something negative didn't affect us. But it's just 6 laps in. Let's face it, with Verstappen, I could see him still making a bit of a comeback. Did his rear wing get destroyed? There is a gap. There's also a gap down here, so I would assume that means that there is light damage to his rear wing, which should slow him down massively to the point where he is probably going to end up getting lapped quite a few times. So this is going to get fairly interesting to see long term. But Schumi here, we are going to recharge. We're going to try and use energy to move forwards. Right now, gaps are starting to appear, which is going to make his job a little bit easier. Let's see if he might catch Sainz by the end of this. We are reaching the time for our first pit stop here, and Schumacher is podium positioned. Well, the reality situation is that everyone has pitted, so he's not really, and probably going to be back down into, well, outside the points by the time we do pit. But considering that it's basically, again, just 10 seconds after that to get up to Bottas in 5th, I say we're well positioned here. And with a bit of a fresher tyre than everyone else, well, just slightly fresher than some of these, I say that is an acceptable exchange. Now, we're also going to get Sargent in here. He's still in first. Yamamoto pitted on the last lap. And he is not going to keep net first, let's be honest, that just isn't happening. But we should be able to beat Bottas out and stay in second. And I can live with that result. So let's see how we do. Albon is pitting, Schumacher is pitting, Yamamoto is there in 4th. We are done. And Yamamoto now is flying down the main straight. We do come out next to her. So, all in all, we're still running 1-2. She's going to have a little bit of an advantage here because she pitted first. We're going to run these mediums on aggressive, however. I do believe we're going to be able to keep up. Schumacher, on his end, comes out 17 seconds off the lead, which, again, isn't terrible. He is, again, less than 10 seconds off 4th place here. Close to a podium by 12 seconds. So, I'd say we are still looking really, really good here. Like, Schumacher can definitely close down that gap with a little bit of help. So let's see how this medium stint develops for us. Hopefully, in a good way. As we are getting close to the end here of this medium stint, Schumacher has done a impressive job. I can't lie. He's up in 4th here. A lot of cars have pitted, of course. There's just no way around that. But Sainz is the furthest one that has pitted. And again, it's just 10 seconds. So Schumi here is actually in a really, really promising position. Yeah, Sargent, on the other hand, has caught up to Yamamoto. She is going to be pitting very, very soon off this soft tyre. And with Sainz already having used this much of his medium tyre, it's not looking good for him. To make matters worse for Verstappen, he has picked up some component damage as well. And him and Tsunoda are not enjoying their current life. Let's just put it like that. So Sainz is the only one we need to really worry about, with the exception, of course, of Yamamoto. And the goals here have been kind of set pretty clearly. Sargent needs to beat Yamamoto, and Schumacher needs to beat Sainz. That's going to be the end of it. Unfortunately here, Verstappen did not end up in the way of Yamamoto. Could have lost a couple of seconds there getting stuck behind him, for sure. But for Schumacher here and Sargent, we could pit them on this lap, but I think we can push one more, just to give us a little bit more soft tyre to work with. And I think that is exactly what we're going to do here. And hopefully this won't bite me in the arse, but it might, because we're staying out probably a little bit longer than we should. The Sergeant here should still come out of science. There is still...
There's a yellow flag.
Are we getting a virtual safety car? Maybe? Piastri in the ATG car. Now that's not a virtual or anything. If they would have to pick up debris, I could argue it would be a virtual. But they won't, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Yamamoto here has actually gone to a soft tire of our own, which puts us in a little bit of a tight spot, not going to lie. For Sargent here, it's going to be a couple of seconds out behind. And for Schumacher, who has a... not a great stop. I believe he was a little bit slow there for some reason. It just feels like that. He is now 13 seconds off the... 13 seconds off Sainz. So, bit of work ahead of both of our drivers here. 15 laps to go, however. I can imagine that Yamamoto is going to burn her tires up to a point where we might be able to close this gap back down. And for Schumacher here, I just need to start clearing cars and close down to the Red Bull ahead. Now, losing a few points to Yamamoto wouldn't be terrible, but at the same time, I would like to avoid it if possible. But that is a beautiful pass from Schumacher, and I think he'll be getting another one right away here. As we have every advantage over Bottas, basically. So that is looking very, very good. Both of our drivers should enjoy... Sargent's actually just down to very high. That's not great. But Schumacher at least is enjoying peak confidence, and I can see him catching Sainz over the next 13 laps. Schumacher just overtook Sainz for 4th place, and we're going to try and have him hunt the podium again. But we basically have a tire advantage that made that overtake a lot easier. Tire and tire type advantage, if you will. Now, for Sargent, it's going to be a little bit of a harder fight here. He has 3 laps and 3 seconds. We are going to need some lucky DRS placements, not to lose time behind other cars. If we want to pull this off, we do have a very slight tire advantage. And the same can kind of be said for Schumacher here, who is fighting Gasly for that last podium spot, which I do believe that he is going to win. Again, a bit of a tire advantage here that we can work with. 3 laps to go now, and 2 seconds for Sargent. In that last lap, though, however, we ended up gaining 1.2 seconds. So I think Sargent can pull this off. It shouldn't be a huge concern. And we do need to kind of save our energy to make this overtake a little bit easier. For Schumacher here, I would love for him to create a little bit of a bigger gap to Gasly, so that there's no chance of DRS re-overtaking. And looks like that is going to be a little bit difficult. I assume Gasly is actually pushing energy at the moment. But we will have to see, as Sargent has now closed up to the championship rival. And with just 2 laps to go here, including this one, we do need to try and get an overtake done. Basically, if we don't get an overtake done on this lap, we're going to try the next one. There is a back marker here, the Ferrari, and also the Mercedes a little bit further up the road that could cause issues. I don't really want to start using energy right now. I don't want to start using fuel right now. We'll save it for an attempt on the final lap instead. And that should get the job done here, as we are gaining slowly but surely the car ahead. You can kind of see just how powerful the DRS is here. I'm going to go ahead and push fuel a little bit. Just ever so slightly. Try and help us keep up a little bit easier. And I'm going to start deploying a little bit here. I don't think we necessarily need to deploy for this first DRS zone. We need to save energy for the second one if we can't get the overtake done here. And honestly, we couldn't. So let's save a little bit of energy here. Start pushing now. To get closer to the final DRS zone. And if we're this close, getting an overtake done should be child's play. And it is. Overtake done around the outside. We do have the lead here. With just 1 corner to go. And Sargent does get fastest lap and the win. And with Schumacher here most likely coming in 3rd, unless he does something very fancy in the last corner, We now have first and third again. Science is going to end up fifth here, which is good for us. Verstappen does end up dead last with just one lap down, which is impressive in its own right. But yeah, that's a very, very good, very good 3 races here. I hope Schumacher will continue his shenanigans, honestly, because he just went 17 to 3rd. And if you consider that he's 12 seconds off the lead, that's not a bad result at all.
Flag has flown. There's Nicky
That's actually a kind of insanely good for us. 15 places up. With this, the Driver Championship here, we increase the gap to 33 points. In the Constructors, we overtake Red Bull. We're back on top with 5-point lead. Basically, we turn everything around here. So I can't wait to see what happens next time. We still have that, you know, how should I put this? How should I put this? The random factor, the uncertainness factor of Schumacher and Sargent, which keeps me kind of on my toes. But Schumacher getting that mistake out in quali is something that I can deal with for the most part, as was proven that last race. So hopefully he keeps that trend going. He's also increased his overall to 78 here with a 1-point gain in accuracy last month. So it's looking really, really promising. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Let me know what you think, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye, everyone.